Hey there everybody, and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to do procedural greeble, and if you don't know what greeble is, it's basically this thing. It's like extra surface detail. So imagine that this is like a good ship that I modeled. I know it looks awful. We can assign greeble, and that's just going to add some like random surface detail that from afar looks like, wow, he modeled this complicated thing. But really, I'm just selecting faces and saying add greeble here, here, and it flows in the direction of the thing. It even works on cylindrical surfaces. So you can add as much greeble as you want. Let me show you how to do that in geometry nodes. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to model something like, I don't know. This works with any mesh is the point. So I'm just going to model a basic ship. So something like that. And we want to apply greeble to this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a selection. So let's say we want to add greeble to this face and this face. You're going to hit Control-G to assign it to a group. So now we have a group. That one we go into edit mode and click select. It knows what this is. We can give this a name like selection. Now in geometry nodes, all we have to do is make a geonodes thing for this. So I'm going to separate our mesh by geometry. And I'm going to separate it using a named attribute, which named attribute selection. So you can actually bring in a group, a vertex group, inside a geometry node. So you just select the group right here, and that's going to separate the selection. Now you might think that the inverse is going to give us everything else, but it doesn't. If we actually join these two things together, you think, oh, the sum of the two parts makes the whole. No, it's actually missing some geometry. So we have to do something clever to get the rest of the geometry. But first of all, let's add greeble to this selection. The algorithm is very simple. We are first of all going to subdivide the mesh. Then we are going to extrude the mesh individually, so make sure this is set to individual, and set this to random, so only some of the faces come out, as you can see. Okay? And then I'm going to make that a little less intense. You take this and you make it a node group, Control-G, and you just copy it a couple times. And that's how you add greeble. Each time it's selecting a random selection and all this. And we can control the density of this greeble and the extrusion of it. So we have quite a bit of control. By the way, a cool little hack that I found is if you add a triangulate node, we get this kind of organic triangular greeble. So that's just a thing. But we just greeble however many times we want, depending on the surface detail. But now we want to join this with the rest of the mesh. Again, the issue is if we join geometry with the inverse, it's missing some of these faces. So here's how we recover them. I'm going to use a geometry proximity node on the selection. So we're going to say, hey, geometry, look at how close you are to this based on geometry selection. And we are going to separate by components again for where the distance is greater than some threshold, let's say. So we do this. Let's see what this looks like. One important thing that I missed is in this separate geometry, make sure this is set to face. That's kind of the missing component. And now you can see it has the inverse of this. So here's our two pieces, and here's everything else. So we just take these, we join them together, and now we have a complete mesh. This is probably something that's easier to see with a bit of render settings. I'm going to add some cavity, some shadow, and now you can see. So we have our greeble and everything else. The cool thing about this is it's completely procedural, so I can just assign it to the group, and any face that I add becomes part of the greeble. And we can... Ooh, ambulance outside. We can automatically, like, create new parts of this geometry. And as long as we assign parts of this to the greeble, it's going to add it to it. So you can see we get a pretty complicated looking thing, and you can make it even denser, depending on your thing. As always, you can change your probability to make it less intense or more intense. That is up to you. But that's how you add quick greeble. Hopefully that helped somebody. And I just want to say, if you're kind of new to the geometry nodes game and you want to get yourself a primer, I wrote a book about geometry nodes. Here's a song to help advertise it. Geometry nodes. That's right. Get the book. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next tutorial.